to be a hero, a superhero. Breakthrough. It's taken a while, but it's been worth the wait for Cardiff City.
Hey guys, I'm Si. Welcome to A.C.E Podcast Nation, the home of the Andy Campbell Football Show. This is episode 106. We are live on YouTube, Facebook and Twitter. A.C.E Podcast Nation, also your home to many other great shows and series featuring top guests, expert analysts and more. So please do give us a follow on social media. And of course, subscribe to that YouTube channel. It's the most direct way to support us at the moment. You can watch this show and all the other shows we do in video version, youtube.com/A.C.E Podcast Nation, or the audio version at any radio and podcast platform you like. And if you just want to talk football, you can follow at A.C.E Footy Show on all social media, and that streamlines your experience to just football, as A.C.E Podcast Nation does shows on all sorts of subjects. But just as we do wait for those three platforms to fill up in the live chat, a big thank you to Black Diamond Sports as ever for all their support around the show. They represent sports stars from around the world. For more information, you can visit their social media pages and, of course, their website, links to which are in the description for the episode, and, of course, the closing credits at the end of the show. Today's sponsors, as ever, Dan Ralston and Bespoke Financial. We'll see a video from them a bit later on. But Darren Ralston of Bespoke Financial is giving away a free will worth £140 with each new policy taken out at the moment. So check them out. Don't miss out on what is a phenomenal offer. Give them a call, see if there's anything which might interest you, something which could help you. Obviously, they've looked after Andy with various policies over the years, including the critical illness and the injury cover. They are top of their field and provide an award-winning service. But they do all sorts of different cover and insurance, and they are branching out around the UK. So I urge you to check them out. But with no further ado, introducing first of all the goal collector. He is the fox in the box. He is still the king of the Millennium Stadium, the QPR Dream Killer. It is David Jones's favourite son, the co-hostess with the mostess, ex-Cardiff City and Middlesbrough striker, Mr. Andy Campbell. How goes it, my friend?
I'm very good, mate. Yeah, thank you. Monday comes around really quickly, doesn't it? It just seems like a boomerang. It's brilliant. No, really, regardless what's going on in the world, Mondays are starting to become, and Fridays, by the way, but Mondays, especially with live guests, are becoming my favourite day of the week because it gives us a chance to relive some really good moments, meet some very interesting people, and this just as much as everybody else is they're really excited for the show. I'm interested to see, though. I'm not going to give the game away, but let's see who all our lovely viewers think's got the best accent by the end of the show. Who's got the best accent? Let's see. I'm not throwing out there. I'm just let's see, eh? Let's see.
Shocking. I was going to say it's going to be a very busy week on A.C.E Podcast Nation this week because we've literally got live show tonight, live show possibly Wednesday, live show Thursday, live show Friday. So it's going to be very interesting. More on that later. But tonight's guest is Northland College head coach and Leicester City fan, all the way from America. It is Mr. Gregg Gilmore. How goes it, Greg?
It's going good. Thanks for having me, you guys. I've been listening now for around a month and excited to be here. And hopefully I have the best accent. I'd like to think I probably have the most unique accent.
You certainly do. I've not heard it, And what's confusing me a little bit is Cade's comment, "Evening lads," which is fine. And then we've got another comment from one of your lovely players, I think, Isaac Clark, who says afternoon, and it's just going to confuse the life out of me this side. So, I look outside, it's dark. I'm guessing it's quite bright where you are, Greg. So it's
middle of the day. Regarding Cade's comment, I can certainly not be doing what he's doing right now. We're it's 2:00. I'm still in the office right now.
Yeah, no, but great to have you on. We've been quite lucky, haven't we, Si, that we've with probably my age, especially, and the people that I know, I know a lot of managers, know a lot of coaches, know a lot of people who've had a good background in bringing players through to certain levels, and I think it's so important. Coaches and managers, I think, don't underestimate how much of an influence they have on people's careers, and especially at an age side. Your boys play football and at various levels, and it's kids and I class people. Kids as anyone younger than me. We had Joe Jacobs on, who's over 30 now. He's still a kid to me, but it's so important for kids to have, and young people and young adults to have those aspirations and inspirations from their coaches.
Yeah, no, I'm really lucky to be doing what I'm doing. I'm dealing with 18 to 22, sometimes 23, 24-year-olds every day. And obviously, having a career around soccer, as we call it over here, I consider myself blessed every day. But as you kind of touched on, it's so much more than just, coaching the X's and O's, tactical decisions. I'm dealing with kids when they're at one of the more vulnerable areas of their life. They're kind of learning how to be adults. Very often they're hundreds or thousands, sometimes tens of thousands of miles away from home. So it's a lot of fun. It's just so much more than soccer at the college level, but I'm very lucky to be doing what I'm doing.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And just what you said there, one of your comments there about it's more than just football, the football. And I was quite lucky, that I know my dad watches the show religiously, he comes in the comments, and I wouldn't even like to think where my life and where my path would have gone if it wasn't for football. Football saves a lot of people. Sport saves a lot of people. Coaches save a lot of people. People who push you in a certain direction, help with that especially. But you're a coach, you're a mentor, you're a father figure when those parents aren't there. You've got to be the good, the bad, and the ugly. Trying to be someone's friend one minute and then be tougher than the next. It must be a contrast of emotions every day, with every day just being so different, especially what's going on in the world as well now.
Yeah, it's a delicate balance, and some of the things you just said, it's kind of why I wanted to get into coaching. You mentioned a coach kind of helping someone get on the right path. When I was 17, 18 in high school, I probably wasn't making the best decisions for my life, if I'm being honest. And I got really lucky to play for Tim Penrod, who was my college coach. He was with me for all 4 years, and he kind of put me on a different path. And I sometimes joke with him and, my family, I have no idea where I'd be, probably nowhere good if I hadn't kind of encountered Coach Penrod. And I give him a lot of credit. And now, like I said, I get to work in soccer, football. A bad day at the office is a loss. To me, that's a bad day that beats most other jobs as far as I'm concerned.
And we said this, haven't we? That there's and people beg to differ. People see football as life and death, and I think I saw that up until a certain level, what's going on in the world. When I played, I was devastated about a loss, and then you go home and you see your family, and things look a lot better. And when these young people are going back to where they live in their own rooms and sharing rooms or whatever, it must be getting that right balance, because mental health is rife anywhere at the best time with young people because of social media, football anywhere, girls. There's so many factors which play on young people's minds, and then the good performance, bad performance, being injured, being fit, not being as good as somebody else. People say, would I like to turn the clock back and do my football career again? And no, I'm happy what I've done. I'm happy that I wasn't the best footballer in the world, but I got the best out of what Andy Campbell had, and I know the pain on the hard days. I know the pain what I went through physically, mentally, on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, on a yearly basis, and it was painful. But then the good is good, and I'd like to relive those moments again. But there's no guarantee you're ever going to do that. You know what I mean? So it's sometimes nice to just accept and be grateful of what you've achieved, and then just let someone else take over.
I think people overlook kind of the mental side of not just college athletes, especially professional athletes, like at the pro level. And you look at social media, and I think a lot of people forget that these people have families. They have it's a job, it's a ton of work. And here at the college level, we're training year round at times. We're in the weight room all the time, fitness center, we're doing tactical sessions in a classroom. And then on top of that, these guys are trying to balance a college education. So it's just a lot. And I think a lot of people kind of take that for granted. And to me, from the coaching side, it's a privilege and I'd say a reward to kind of help guys through that process.
Well, obviously, I'm quite lucky because obviously I got to meet you through obviously one of your good young players. Obviously, Isaac Clarke from the UK. Obviously, I was very lucky to I won't say I would never take any credit for because the level that I met Isaac through was junior football, so it was probably under 10s, under 11s, and we had more fun than we did learning football. We had for me, it's about kids being kids, and it's about kids taking shots. It's about kids scoring goals. It's about kids trying to win football matches, but having fun and just not stopping. That training twice a week, playing on a Sunday. Doesn't matter win, lose or draw. Yes, we all want to win. Of course we do, because it's something that never goes away from people as you get older. You know what I mean? So you've got to instill that losing mentality sometimes, that winning mentality, because it's part and parcel of growing up. And obviously, I spoke to Isaac over the last year quite a lot of times over the phone and things, and he tells me how the different things he's doing. You know what I mean? And I think, geez, could I have done that as a young player? Probably not. I used to hate weights. I used to hate the gym. I used to hate doing anything apart from going out on the football pitch and doing fitness, probably speed sessions or doing shooting drills or keep ball drills or doing the fundamental things that I was happy with. And football's evolved so much. So can you see in a short space of time then how much that has evolved?
I mean, the weight room thing, I'd say that's evolved a ton over the last 10 years, maybe even over the last 5 years, 3 years. Like when I was a player, you can't see my arms right now, but we didn't put a huge emphasis on lifting, and that really shows. Now,
Look
college...
Look at these. There's nothing here. Look,
yeah.
It's a bit of flab, bit of fat.
Exactly. But now you look at all the college programs and everything, they're putting a huge emphasis on it. Where if you go back maybe 4 or 5 years as well, college programs used to just get out on the field as much as possible. And like, I remember my first preseason, we were training 3 times a day, 6 days a week. And by day 3, like, no one could walk. And so I think the science of just kind of the health of the athletes, like, there's a better way to do this. And I think things are coming a long ways. But at the same time, like you touched out, a lot of people aren't comfortable with weight room. We're still getting tons of guys like that. And it's sometimes a challenge to get them to buy in. But the good thing is with the weight room, once you start seeing results, guys usually get pretty excited.
Yeah, well, I think that's the young mentality side, isn't it? I mean, we spoke, haven't we? That obviously you've got young kids, and I've got young girls, but it's still who play sport as well. But it's important that I mean, it's not about being the best that you can be, and if that's being a little bit more streetwise, as in a little bit stronger physically, that'll help you going a long way. That I mean, as a centre forward, for example, being able to hold off a defender, as a central defender, being stronger than a centre forward, there's no point just getting bullied off people. It just doesn't. It doesn't make sense and it doesn't add up. But you know what I mean? It's a whole package. You just mentioned pre-season there. I remember my first pre-season back when I was 16 in Middlesbrough, and we got dropped off at a place called Eston. You know what I mean? I for those in Middlesbrough know what I'm talking about. That we got it's like a country park. So we got dropped off at the entrance, and the bus drove to the exit, which is a good probably 12, 15 miles away. You know what I mean? Running through the park and up the hills and down the hills and up the steps, down the steps. And then would pick us up at the other end. So the quicker you finish, the quicker you could go home, which is just it's such an old school way to think about it. And I just, not for me, football's evolved. That it's about matches, fitness. It's about a whole array of things, and not just about just getting on the field, running for 12, 15 minutes and then carrying on. It's such an old school way of doing it. But I think managers and coaches have to take that credit for that to evolve and change, because if it wasn't for those guys, and I'll probably talk about Sam Allardyce. Sam, for me, is the biggest influence in British football who made that change for English football, and that's without a doubt. And I was lucky enough to play for Sam, and his methodology. I went on loan for about a month, 2 months, and I went back to Middlesbrough, and I couldn't believe that it was like chalk and cheese. I was going down a level, going back to the Premier League, and the Middlesbrough were far, million miles behind, unfortunately, and that's just the way it was.
One of the first managers who brought in like technology for analysis and things like that. Yeah. And that's why I always think he gets a bit of a rough deal, because of the way his teams play football. It's almost like assumed that he's like an old school kind of manager who's a bit of a dinosaur, and I don't think that's the case at all. Like, I don't know him, never met him, never spoken to him by any means, but I know that he brought in a side to coaching that no other manager had brought in before that, and I think he deserves a tremendous amount of credit.
I agree. It's disrespectful. It's disrespectful, because I remember my time at Bolton with him, and he had Michael Ricketts up front. He had Ricardo Gardner on one wing. I can play on the other. He had Kevin Nolan. You know what I mean? Attacking wise, there was no more attacking player in the Championship at the time than his side. So you know what I mean? Yes, he's now in a league which is ultra attacking. There's so much money involved in football. He can't afford to lose, so he's sat defending a result like he was at Wolves at the weekend. You know what I mean? And people say his brand of football is not very good. I do understand that, but there's so much pressure on a manager to get results. You know what I mean?
It's results
exactly.
based.
It's the same as I totally agree. And you know what I mean? Him more than most. You know what I mean? His reputation's been hit for the negative way of what happened in the past with him being England manager. You know what I mean? So I think people have to give him a little bit of slack and understand what he's done throughout his career. He's evolved football in England and evolved football clubs. You know what I mean? Because look at the state Bolton Wanderers are in since he left. You know what I mean? It's no coincidence for me.
100%. Okay, so what we'll do to start us off, Greg, is we'll do the Magnificent Seven, which is 7 quickfire questions for you, just so the viewers can get to know you a little bit, put you to the test. So,
I'm intrigued here. There's going to be one good question at the end, isn't there? At least one. The last one. I know, but the last one's going to be amazing if I can guess it now, but I'm not going to guess it, but I'm hoping.
I pressed it a bit early then, mate. Sorry.
It's all right. I had to press it straight away just to cut me off.
Okay, Gregg Gilmore, Magnificent Seven. Messi or Ronaldo?
Ronaldo.
Easy one, that one.
Favorite TV show?
Oof, favorite TV show. Oh. My fiance is going to kill me if I answer this wrong. Schitt's Creek.
Okay.
Out on Netflix. If you haven't seen it, it's great. Don't judge it on the first episode, because I judged it on the first episode, stopped watching, got back into it. One of my favorite TV shows ever.
Like it.
I have to have a look at that. Jamie Vardy or Gary
Jamie Vardy.
Lineker?
Jamie Vardy. I don't even need to see this. I hear the second name.
Like it.
Two Leicester legends. Ranieri or Brendan Rodgers?
Oh, man.
See, in my opinion, this is easier than the last one.
I think that as well.
Well, I think it's tough because I want to think about the future here as well. But Claudio Ranieri brought Leicester something that, I mean, it's just never been done in sports at 5,000 to 1. But I'm going to go with Rodgers.
Oof. Controversial.
Consistency matters.
So, football or NFL?
Football.
I was going to put I put soccer, but I refused. I had this conversation with the guy that I do the wrestling podcast with, who's from Washington, and I refused to call it soccer. I can't. But anyway, that's my problem. Premier League or MLS?
Oh, Premier League. It's. I mean, I don't know if you guys have watched an MLS game, and I'm not trying to be down on it, but Premier League, no doubt.
I think we might be watching a little bit more as well, because Phil Neville's just got the Inter Miami job today. So
yeah, I wonder how he got that job. That's interesting.
Yeah, I know. I wondered that. You know, I really wondered that. Yeah, I wonder if he knows the chairman.
MLS is getting better and better, but we still got a little bit of ways to go.
Right, we'll do the last question, and I'm going to put a question to you both in a minute about that, about Inter Miami. The last question is, who is the greatest American man to ever live? Doesn't have to be football related.
What a question.
The greatest American man to ever live. Well, this might not be the best answer, but considering what the day is over here, it is Martin Luther King Jr. Day in the United States today, and I'll go with Martin Luther King Jr. Moved the needle so far for civil rights here in the United States, and he's a hero, he's a legend, and it's his day, so good answer.
Like it, Greg. A great answer. Absolutely wonderful answer.
Love it. That's the best answer we've had to any.
Do you know what? I'll give you that. And do you know what? I didn't even know it was that day, so fair play. Just timing's everything, Si, isn't it? Timing's everything.
Yeah, that's it. So, back to the MLS, I wanted to ask you, will it be good or bad if Inter Miami, when they start up, if David Beckham brings in a load of his mates, whether it's your Zlatans and all these, whoever he's played with over the years, he can bring in a lot of people. He's got a lot of friends, and they basically just win everything off the first season. Is it that going to be good or bad? Is it good because they're going to bring all these kind of superstars, even if they're coming to the end of their careers, to draw attention to the league and get more eyes on it, or is it bad that someone can just come in, sign, bring in his mates and basically win everything easily?
I'll let you.
Oh,
I'll let you. I'll let you
go first. Sorry, mate.
I'll start. No, that's fine. I think the signing of Phil Neville, I think it will raise the profile of the MLS. I think with his background in football at Man United, at Everton, with England, even with the Lionesses, I think it's a good move. What David Beckham's done by bringing him in. The proof in the pudding is going to be signings. Who he's going to bring in. You know what I mean? Will that be an open checkbook? If it is, who does Phil Neville know? And I'm not being disrespectful to Phil, by the way, here, because Phil's a very talented man, a good coach, excellent footballer. Who's Phil going to know to bring in? He's going to know English players and British players, first and foremost. So there's not that many English footballers, British footballers, who are playing in the MLS at the minute. So it'll be interesting to see how many go over there to play. You know what I mean? Will... just thinking outside the box, that will he go for some of the Premier League players who aren't playing? Will he look at some lads from? Will it be a link with the club? You know what I mean? That sometimes happens. You look at the Man City link with New York City, but and Melbourne as well in the A League. Will Inter Miami try and get a link with the club? Will that be Everton? Will that be Man United? Will it be another side? I don't know. I'm not going to say Salford because I don't think the two teams are at that kind of level. But do I think it'll be a good move to answer your question? Yes, I do for the football club. I think it'll raise the profile, and I think it'll help Miami get to a level quicker than they did last year. Previously, I thought last year in their first season, I thought they were, yes, COVID related. I thought they were poor though. The games that I watched, because I watched it with a bit of interest, I think the standard of the players they brought in weren't great. They brought in a lad from Celtic, for example, who was a big name, winger attacking player. But for me, I think with David Beckham's name, I'm expecting some bigger players, and they did bring bigger players in towards the end, with a couple of lads from Paris Saint-Germain, a couple of French internationals. So, you know what I mean? The standard of players are going to get better and going to get to that level, I think.
I think anytime where the United States is bringing players in from overseas, it's a good thing for the MLS. I think over the last 10 years, we've kind of seen some people start to come over in the twilight hours of their career. And I would like to think that as that continues, and I imagine it's going to continue with Inter Miami, that more players are going to start coming just earlier and earlier. And I think if you go back in general, a lot of guys have enjoyed their time in the U.S. It's kind of a chance to not be someone that whenever they walk down the street that 1,000 people are going to come running up to them. So I would like to think that even if let's say they do bring in a bunch of guys that they know and just dominate the league right away, I don't think that'll necessarily be a negative thing. I think it's going to help the league grow. I think it's going to help other teams grow. So I look at it as a good thing.
Yeah, no, I totally agree, Si. I think it's important that Greg nailed it there for me about players. You know what I mean? The players want a bit of privacy. You know what I mean? That Robbie Keane mentioned it. David Beckham mentioned it. Other players have gone over and mentioned it, that it's a little bit more laid back. The pre-match is a little bit more laid back. That they're doing interviews before a game. That people are coming in the locker room or the changing room and having conversations and doing mini interviews, which doesn't happen. You know what I mean? You're lucky if you can get anywhere 10 foot away from a Premier League footballer during, before, and after a game now. So you know what I mean? Supporters don't get anywhere near them, and I think that's for me where the link's been lost a little bit in the UK. You know what I mean? The relationship between fans and players is poor now. It used to be a lot better when I played. The relationship I've got with supporters for every club I play for and on here is fantastic. And I think sometimes that gets lost in transition. And in the US, you know what I mean, they've got certain things better. You know what I mean? They're still missing out on a lot of things. But I think with high-profile people comes professionalism, and it can run a club the way that they want to get run, and whatever things they want to implement is only going to be beneficial for the MLS, not just Inter Miami, but other clubs as well are going to follow suit and copy, because if something works for them, other teams are going to follow it because it's going to work. Because you know what I mean, if that's bringing in an English manager, coach, or players, or whatever that may be, I think it's only going to be beneficial. Greg said it about players who played in the Premier League are marketable. You know what I mean? They sell. People will watch them. So if you know what I mean, if that's another Robbie Keane, so a big name player getting dotted around in Club X, Club Y, Club Z, I think it's it can only be good for the standard of play, for the clubs, for the TV rights, for people watching it at
bringing
home
in more
and
money
live.
too.
Yeah,
like when Ibrahimovic came over here,
Yeah.
there was just jerseys everywhere, and I think he was only here for like 1 or 2 years. And same thing with Wayne Rooney. It also gets MLS games on national TV more, and it's just it helps draw people in. So I think it's great, and I hope it happens. I think one of the worst things that could happen is if Miami flops. That would be bad.
I think.
I think it'd be bad for loads of factors.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, David Beckham's wallet as well would be one of them. I think. I do wonder why the MLS doesn't always. They focus very much on kind of players from Europe who are coming to the end of their career, like a Zlatan and like Rooney. Whereas I always think they're missing the boat a little bit by maybe looking at young Premier League players who are not getting playing time, who could go out there for a year, get a phenomenal learning experience, experience a completely different culture, but also be good enough to play in the MLS. And also kind of like championship
I don't
players.
think they'll come back. I don't think some of them will want to come back. I'll be honest. You know what I mean? If you're at a club, Galaxy, what I mean? You're living in LA and you've got the weather, you've got the lifestyle, you've got the football. As a player, what else do you want? You know what I mean? You're getting paid because you love doing some of what you're doing. You know what I mean? You're getting well paid for it. You're a superstar because you've just said it there. If you're targeting players who are going to play regular, do well, excel, you know what I mean? For me, I'd rather be the best player in the league at 22, 23, 24 than be sat at number 25th man at Tottenham Hotspur, for example, and not be playing and still getting paid. So
my thinking is, like, obviously all these legends, if you like, who are going over, they expect a certain amount of money. Am I right in saying there's still a salary cap in the MLS?
Yeah, I saw someone commented on that over there. We have designated players as well, so there's a couple. Each team has a couple spots where they can really, break the bank. But for the most part, just professional sports in the U.S. in general, financially, are just structured so much different, where it would be difficult for a play, especially a young player, to come over and make anywhere near what he potentially could make in England. I would imagine some players, when they're younger, would be a little bit nervous about coming to the U.S. and potentially, like if you're in an academy set up over in England, that they might not. I mean, if your dream is to someday play for Manchester United, like, people are going to tell them that, hey, if you go over there and join, DC United, like, that dream's over. And I don't know if that's actually true. In my opinion, I don't think it is. Someone mentioned Jack Harrison in the chat, who, got his start in New York over here. But I would imagine there's a large sentiment like that right now.
Yeah, I think, funny enough, sorry, Jan.
No, sorry.
So the academy, which my boys play for, they, the goalkeeper, my older boy, they every year they go out to America and they do like a tour of all the different clubs, and they all, they have a trial of all these goalkeepers. They take about 20 of them of like academy age or just about to turn academy age, and they all basically try out for scholarships, and then they move out there, and I think they've sent, in the last sort of 3 or 4 years, they've sent about 20-30 goalkeepers out. So like I said, I think it's a phenomenal opportunity, and I got a couple of friends who went and did coaching to coach children, but they did it in America, and they moved out. They started off just going out there for a summer, doing like summer camps and stuff like that. And I think it's like, for young people who are interested in either coaching or maybe playing football but haven't had the opportunities with a championship club or a Premier League club, and they're sort of 17, 18, if you can get some sort of scholarship to go out to America and do an education at the same time, like, why wouldn't you do it? And like you said, and like about the people like not wanting to come back, and I think that is fairly common with a couple of the people like who I've mentioned there, who've gone over as players, done their scholarship, and they've decided to stay out there and pursue.
I think it's boys and girls as well, sir. You know what I mean? Because you know what I mean. You look at the standard of women's football in America is ridiculous. You know what I mean? That
best in the world.
You know what I mean? You look at you look at everyone raves about the league that we've got. You know what I mean? The WSL, and yes, it's strong, but Americans are coming over making it strong. Managers are coming over making it stronger. Players are coming over. The biggest names in the world are coming here to make it stronger. They're going back because it's not what they thought it was. You know what I mean? And you can't fault them. You know what I mean? They're back there, they've got the weather. Back there, they've got the lifestyle. Back there, they've still got the football. They've still got the facilities. They've still got the pitches. it's a no-brainer sometimes. You know what I mean? It's so different, and you know what I mean. The Premier League's always going to be the Premier League. You know what I mean? I can look at it from so many different angles. And when you get to a certain age, you know what I mean. Zlatan tried it, then he came back. You know what I mean? For me, it has a lifespan. You know what I mean? That it's probably a season or two. David Beckham did it. You know what I mean? Loved it. Stayed out there next season. Robbie Keane, he brought Robbie Keane. No, he didn't bring Robbie Keane, but Robbie Keane played in the same team, and it's an unbelievable opportunity for people to sample. Different lifestyle, different way of thinking.
Well, for the young guys too, you get that well-rounded experience if you're choosing the college route. Like, I mean, you get 4 years, and I don't know if it's like we have a $10 million stadium here, so guys, and let's say guys play for 4 years, and then they don't get any offers after to move on their career. Well, you still have an education from a pretty good university so you still have other pathways. Maybe you want to get into coaching. There's a lot of options. So it's not kind of a be all end all, go pro or bust approach over here.
You mentioned coaching, Greg, there. We had a question from Reese a bit earlier on, which I was kind of saving until it came up. He said, to become a coach in the US, even at college, do you need UEFA badges or coaching badges?
Equivalent, maybe, yeah.
Yeah, we have 2 different badge systems over here. You don't. It really depends on who the hiring manager is or who's in charge at the school. Some athletic directors are my boss here. They'll value them and some won't. But there's no like hard requirement to be coaching in the NCAA with the badges.
Okay. So we've had some phenomenal questions already. And last week I missed a couple which were early because I left them and then we ran out of time. So I just want to throw a couple at you, Greg, while we're here. So Stuart Campbell, who's Andy's dad, said, how popular is football, soccer in brackets, compared with American football in your college and other USA colleges?
I'm not sure if that's a question. He didn't put a question mark on it again. So he's slacking again, isn't he?
Well, I'm pretty lucky here at our college. We don't have American football here. So when we're in season, we're the main attraction on campus. In terms of culturally in the United States, I think everyone knows American football is kind of king over here. But I will say the soccer, football, it's getting better and better over here, and it's getting more popular as well. And I think we'll start to see on the international scene as well kind of the results of soccer getting more and more popular over here. We've got a lot of guys coming up through the national system right now that I think we're pretty excited about.
If anyone's not seen, by the way, please go on Northland College's website or just to see the facilities, because I was very lucky that Isaac's dad sent me a link to watch one of the games, and one of the first games I watched, and the facility, the pitch, everything about it was just unbelievable. It was just crazy to think that there's facilities out there, and if this happens at other colleges, so when you go to other teams, yes, it's going to differ a little bit with stadium and things, but it's just an unbelievable platform to play your football, and it must be so enjoyable, Greg, for those players to have that on their doorstep, so they know that that's where they're going to be playing.
It's awesome. The school built it before I got here, so I got to walk into a situation where it's a lot of work kind of rebuilding the program here, as the quality of the program wasn't the strongest when I got here, and that's probably putting it a little lightly. But anyways, it's the facilities we have. We're very lucky. I mean, it's awesome to be able to walk out on that field every single day knowing that we have one of the best around. And I think our players actually really appreciate it. When I say like, hey, we got to keep things clean, like they're bought in. It's just the entrance. It's not just the field. It's not just the quality. It's the entire architecture of it. And again, there's a lot of colleges out there that, take athletics really seriously. And when you talk about facilities, it can be another plus to the college experience.
You're fantastic.
Question for you and me, I guess. Gaz asks, do you think Greg looks like British comedian Jack Whitehall, or is it just him?
I
think he does a little bit.
Do you reckon? I don't know.
Yeah, I do a little bit.
I'm a big fan of Jack, so yeah.
I don't even know who that is. I was going to try to look him up. I saw that question, and I was about to Google him.
Apparently he's a big flop in America, wasn't he? Apparently, I'm a big fan. He's huge in the UK, but yeah, I'll bring one up.
I'll bring him up now, and we'll do a side-by-side, shall we? But just while I do that, Donna asks, Greg, why do you support Leicester?
I saw that question earlier on. So after I graduated, I didn't really have a team that I was willing to wake up at 5 a.m. for to watch. And it was the year before they won the Premier League. I cannot stress that enough. And I want to say it was probably the middle of the 14-15 year. Maybe it was early. I was just watching random game. It was Manchester United versus Leicester City. And it was the game where Manchester United went up 3-1. And Leicester came back and won 5-3. And they talked a lot about Jamie Vardy in that game as well, his kind of rags to riches story. And it was just the way Leicester played, they kind of, and their motto at stadium, fearless foxes and all that stuff. I didn't know it at the time, but I just really identified with the team, the way they were pressing a bunch that game, just doing all the hard work, had no business competing with Manchester United that day. And so I started paying attention after that game, kind of fell in love with the Jamie Vardy story. And for the most part, the rest of the year, that was pretty terrible until they made the great escape, winning 7 out of the last 9. And that's when I was like, it really fit with kind of where I was coaching at the time, long before here, and just kind of fell in love with the team. My dog drinks out of a Leicester City dog bowl now. I have way too many jerseys, pajama pants, all sorts of slippers, all sorts of stuff. And obviously with the next year, it worked out really well. Not even I could have expected that. But yeah, that's the long answer, I guess.
That game, Si, was, we spoke about this. Spoke about, it's a good picture. Good picture as well, by the way. We spoke about that game, Greg. I think it was last week. Because we're on about goals, weren't we? And that was, I'm sure that was the game where Angel Di Maria scored that unbelievable chip against Kasper Schmeichel, wasn't it?
Yeah, me also. I'm pretty sure. No, it wasn't him. I remember the chip, but I just remember Jamie Vardy setting up 3 goals that game. Yeah. But no, that was definitely it.
Greg, do you use the Jamie Vardy story with players and to give them inspiration that anything's possible?
I'd say I give the whole Leicester City story as well as Jamie Vardy. It becomes a little bit cliche over time, but in terms of that kind of mindset, like it's okay to dream. It's okay to think that better things can happen, even if it's against incredible odds. And it kind of relates well to our situation here at Northland. If you go back last, 18 years, 20 years, the soccer program here hasn't had a whole lot of, and I'm trying to be respectful of the alumni and players that came before us, but there just hasn't been a whole lot of success in terms of wins and results. And you just look at what we have, and you gotta dare to think that, better things can happen that have never been done before. And Leicester City showed that it really is possible. So yeah, I don't necessarily always bring it up directly, but in terms of what they did, what Jamie Vardy did, we do use that mindset.
I think it's important also, isn't it? We speak about players, we speak to different managers and coaches, and even players sometimes, that how they what kind of mindset they use to get players going, how they help players get through a season, and make to the grade they are. And I think that the story of Jamie is obviously phenomenal. It's an unbelievable thing, which the Leicester City thing won't ever happen again. With winning the Premier League, I don't believe, and I also think the Jamie Vardy thing as well, because it's not about ability for me. Jamie's ability is unquestionable. But what's better than Jamie Vardy's ability is how much desire the boys got to get from the job he was doing, to then go and play at Stockbridge Park Steelers, to then go to Halifax Town, to then be a cult hero. I was very fortunate to play at Halifax Town before Jamie went there. And that football club as a good place in my heart. But to leave a legacy and put them in the position where he has now, financially and positionally, where they are, is, I think that the whole of the place and the football club owes him so much, and he's very humble as well. I seen an interview yesterday. I'm sure his wife's doing Dancing on Ice or something, and I seen his interview, and he just comes across really likable. He comes across that he knows his own story, he knows his own abilities, he knows his limitations. But do you know what? If he finds something hard, he's going to run through a brick wall. He's going to try, and he won't give up. And I don't think he can ever fault that. And a lot of young players at Leicester, a lot of young players in the world, a lot of young players in Britain should look up to him and think, I might not be the best player in the world. I might not have this, and this. I might not be as good as someone else in my team. But you know what? I can give everything I've got. I can try more than he can. I can get fitter than he can, and just try and get little chinks in my armour better than somebody else.
I mean, that's exactly in that 5-3 Manchester game. Like, I didn't realize how deep everything went, but that's why I kind of fell in love with the team and the player. And it's just, that's one thing you players everywhere can control is their work rate, how much they want it, how much desire they have. And to me, Jamie Vardy just exemplifies that. And, if you really are going 110% all the time, if you really are sprinting after all those long balls that at times seem hopeless, what's the worst that's going to happen? I mean, look at what potentially could happen. So I think it's great. And I hope more and more people kind of pay attention to him and don't forget what he did.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And I think it's important though, Si, isn't it? You know what I mean? That Greg spoke about Brendan Rodgers, and I think a manager like Brendan and his forward thinking and the way that he really thinks about his tactics and thinks about the way that he plays and the way that he plays about playing on the break and the pace he's got on the counter attack with Maddison and you know what I mean. You don't have to. We have a grumble every Friday about Middlesbrough and Cardiff about playing one man up front and seeing it as a negative way of playing. But it's not a negative way of playing if you have the right players in the right holes. You know what I mean? And when you've got Jamie Vardy playing up front on his own, sometimes I watched the Newcastle game. I think a couple of Sundays ago, and Maddison was unplayable in that 10 role, linking in midfield, getting in behind when he needed to, playing out wide when he had to, and Jamie Vardy was playing up front in a furrow on his own and chasing lost causes, like you say, getting on through balls from the midfielders and the wide men, and it just works a treat. And if it's not broke, why fix it? You know what I mean? There's certain method in managers' madness, and if you don't need two centre forwards, you can fill other holes tactically better than someone else can.
I mean, Rodgers has done a great job, kind of just transitioning the team to one that's not always defending and just relying on Jamie Vardy. And that's actually why you said Ranieri versus Rodgers. That's why I picked Rodgers, because I think Leicester actually has a chance to, be fighting in that top six year after year after year after year. You're never going to fight for that spot year after year after year if you're just defending 90% of the game and hoping to get Vardy on the break. That's just not sustainable. So, I mean, yeah, Maddison's been a joy to watch as well. Kind of one thing I really like about Rodgers and what he's doing with Leicester, depending on who we're playing, some of the adjustments he makes, and same thing at halftime, he's got to be towards the top of the league right now. And if you look at the Manchester City game where we whacked them, I think it was 5-1 or something. It was very early on in the year. If you watch the first half and you didn't know the score, you would think that Leicester was going to lose that game 5-1. They were getting absolutely dominated, and Rodgers just completely changed the game at halftime. I'm pretty lucky to be able to watch him every single Saturday, Sunday, whenever.
Yeah, whatever day now, just every day.
Not so lucky that I sometimes have to get up at 5 a.m. to do it, but it is what it is.
And quick question from me, really. Kasper Schmeichel, do you think he would get more credit if he played for Man City, Man United, Liverpool, Chelsea? Because I think, from a consistency point of view, he's been one of the best Premier League goalkeepers in the last 10 years. When you look at some of the high-profile mistakes that De Gea has made, the Chelsea goalkeepers have made, the Man City keepers have made, even the Liverpool keepers made a couple. You don't really see a lot of that from Kasper Schmeichel. He's a very safe pair of hands, and he also makes some unbelievable saves. I just wonder what you think, because I often think, because I thought he would end up at United, and I think probably the fact that that Leicester won the league probably ended that, because he didn't need to go to a club like that to then go and win trophies, because he was capable of winning them with Leicester. But do you feel like he doesn't get enough credit for maybe being as good as he is?
I think there's two things for me. I think the first one is like the Leicester City factor. I don't think they're as fashionable as other teams. So if he was playing at Arsenal, Chelsea, Liverpool, Man United, he would get far more credit because he very rarely makes mistakes. His shot stopping, his distribution is just phenomenal. What doesn't do Kasper Schmeichel any favours is who his dad is. And because his dad was, if not one of the best goalkeepers ever to grace a football pitch, must be the best thing ever for Kasper, because he's got that on his doorstep where he can ask advice. He's got all the advice he needs. He can go on it any times he wants. But what comes with it is pressure. You know what I mean? Will he ever live up to how good his dad was, because people compare him to his dad, and I think that's really unfair, because and you've got Wayne Rooney's son just signed for Man United, so Kai's going to be compared to Wayne straight away. Unfair again, you know what I mean? Everyone's got to be you can't compare someone to the parents, because they're built differently. They're so different. You know what I mean? Casper's got familiarities with his dad. The way he comes out, the way he spreads himself is phenomenal. And is absolutely fantastic. But I don't think you can compare. Kasper Schmeichel played in such a successful team at Man United. He was playing with possibly the best back four, apart from probably Arsenal's, that the Premier League's ever seen, with Dennis Irwin, Steve Bruce, Gary Pallister, with Roy Keane ahead of him, and then you've got the class of '92 with Gary Neville. It's so unfair to compare, because he had a little bit more protection, so he had less to do. Kasper's had a lot more to do in a shorter space of time in his career, but his shot stopping, his ability, I'm so surprised no one's had a bite and tried to get him. I'm really surprised. But then
he was good for Cardiff as well when he was on loan.
But then my answer is probably to that as well. I've answered it in a different way. Is he's playing week in, week out. He's earning really good money. He's making a name for himself. He's choking up all his appearances. He's going to break records. So he's playing in international football. He's going to play in World Cups. He's going to play in European Championships. Why does he need to move? Because he might go to a club like Chelsea and he's not number one straight away, and he's got to fight for his place. So for me, he's probably thinking
Chelsea's probably a bad example of that.
Yeah, you know what? I probably could have given a better example, but I think you know what I mean. I just think sometimes, you know what I mean. He's made the right decision. But you know what I mean. Listen, Peter's probably telling him every week, go and sign for Man United. Look at David De Gea, go to United. And do you know what? If he ever did, his dad would be the proudest man in the world, because you know what I mean. That would be unbelievable.
I mean, he's got some of the best job security in the world right now. You mentioned if he goes to one of those bigger clubs, he could be out of the starting spot within half a year. Yeah. Right now, I mean, he's wearing the armband. He's just made his 400th appearance or 401st, something outrageous like that. He's going to be the starter for a long time, and I think that's attractive to him. And if you're going to play international, if you're going to play for your international team, you really have to be getting minutes, and he knows he's going to keep doing that. I think he sees kind of the vision of Leicester, Rodgers, Vardy's still there. I think he actually thinks that they can, challenge for European places every single year.
And I think that's important, though, for me, Si, that he's got a love for the club. He's got an affiliation with what happened to the chairman. You know what I mean? I really believe that he's got so much love for that group of players, the chairman, the fans. I think he feels as though he's got to owe them. He owes them something. I don't think he does, but I just think he feels as though he does. And there must have been loads of times that Greg speaks about his first season, the time that they escaped relegation. He played a huge part in that. But that season, he was still probably one of their standout players, because he was busier than any other player on the pitch. So he could have jumped ship right then and there. I bet he's so glad he didn't, because they won the Premier League. But it would have been horrific. But then they win the league. What happened to Kante? Kante leaves, goes to Chelsea. That was probably a window as well, where are we going to do this again? Possibly
people forget Vardy almost went to Arsenal that summer. I mean, everyone thought it was a done deal as well, and he was over playing in the World Cup, and he's probably glad he stayed too. But in terms of credit, I think it's completely unfair to compare him to his dad. I think you're onto something there, Si. I think he would get more credit if he was somewhere else. I just don't know if he would be playing all the time if he was somewhere else.
Yeah, that's the thing, isn't it?
Well, when's the last time you've seen a highlight on a talk show of Schmeichel making a really bad mistake?
It doesn't happen.
Yeah,
It doesn't happen. It doesn't happen.
I think there was one last year which springs to mind off the top of my head, and I mean that says everything, because I could probably off the top of my head name 2 or 3 that De Gea's made, 2 or 3 that Alisson's made, and 2 or 3 that
even
the
Lloris,
Chelsea keepers. Between the 2 keepers, they can't seem to get it in order. Same with Arsenal, and
I'd like
most
to
keepers make mistakes.
I'd like to see him. I'd like to see him go to a world class side. You know what I mean? Like one day. You know what I mean? Like to see like a Barcelona, Real Madrid. You know what I mean? And just
gone now, mate. He's about 30 something, isn't he?
I just think keepers. It depends how. Keepers can play as long as they want, you know what I mean? As long as he's looking after himself and he's playing, you know what I mean? He's playing at the level he's playing at, you know what I mean? That he looks super fit. He looks super professional, you know what I mean? He's captain, you know what I mean, at times, and he's, you know what I mean, super professional. But he's won the Premier League, which is great. You don't have any regrets about winning trophies, you know what I mean? If players want to go off and be remembered for something, I don't think any Leicester fan in the world would harm him if he went to one of those big sides in the world. I think they would if they went to an Arsenal or or a Tottenham or something in England, because I think that's a little bit disrespectful. But Leicester fans would be so grateful for everything he's done for the club if he moved to a world-class side.
Yes, spot on. Sorry, Greg, go on. You carry on.
I was going to say, Casper, if you're out there, no hard feelings from me if you leave, but please stay. I like what we're doing right now.
Okay, we're going to have a couple more questions, and then I'm going to go to a quick ad break. Kate Giles says, is there any talent we should watch out for in the MLS for the future, as they hadn't had much chance to watch much American football?
Good question.
I'd say the first one that comes to mind is Paul Areola, and I'm not totally as up-to-date on some of these guys as I should be. I believe he's with DC United right now, and he's a pretty big name in the national team. He's relatively on the younger side, but he's definitely one of the guys that over the last year and a half I've become more and more excited about with the MLS. Not just MLS, sorry, our national team as well. And I think everyone knows Christian Pulisic over at Chelsea right now, course, and it's just kind of testimony to we got some things going on over here.
Donna Perry says Cristiano Ronaldo to the MLS to finish his career, maybe.
I hope.
Great shout, that.
Let's hope. Fingers crossed. That'd be awesome.
Great shout.
Kind of makes sense, doesn't it?
I'm not sure he's got any links though with ex-teammates or somebody like an ex.
No,
I'm not sure. Phil Neville. I'm not sure he's got any links. So I'm not. Listen, he could walk into any team he wants in the MLS. You've got the biggest sides in the MLS. The Atlanta United who play in front of 80,000 fans. I've got an unbelievable stadium, and I'm sure it's a Mercedes stadium and things. So listen, there's plenty of clubs who could afford to give him an opportunity. It depends about the boy's desire as well, isn't it? You know what I mean? Does he want to continue to play at the level that he's played at all his career, or does he want to have a swan song at the end? Listen, he's surpassed every one of my expectations. You know what I mean? To still be doing it in Juventus in Italy, you know what I mean, is one thing. But then I look at Juventus yesterday; they got beat by Inter Milan. You know what I mean? They look like they're on a downward spiral at the minute. You know what I mean? With Pirlo there, and it's a transition a little bit. And will somebody of Cristiano's ability and, you know what I mean, his professionalism, will he want to finish fourth or fifth? I don't think he will. I think he'll want to win something. If that's going to another country and finish on the high and score loads of goals, then so be it.
I think part of the problem is he's still playing at such a personal high level that he's going to have so many options aside from the MLS right now for longer than I anticipated, to be honest. So I think that's a little bit of an obstacle of getting him here, but I don't know.
He is so fit and so good that I would not be surprised if he went back to Man United on loan for a year or just for a year to finish his career because of his ties to the club, which seems remarkable when you think of his age. But I just think it wouldn't surprise me. However, he does shy away from celebrity a little bit, so I don't know if he'd want to move to somewhere like LA or something like that. But you never know. Rob Boyle says, Andy, would you have liked to have had a crack at the MLS?
I probably regret a little bit that I didn't try to play overseas. I had an opportunity to go to Holland. Listen, I've never had a regret in football. You know what I mean? I would have liked it for a lifestyle to see what it was like. I would have liked to have that little insight and just to see what it was like, just to see a different style of football maybe, and just to see if it suited the way that I played. But you know what I mean? For me, you know what I mean? America wasn't really what it is now, the MLS style. So you know what I mean? For me, that wasn't like an option. Whatever.
I mean, if you go back in time, some of those MLS teams were playing in like high school stadiums, and there's some old grainy YouTube videos out there, and you'll watch it and you'll be like, that's professional American soccer back then, and it really depends on the era and where the MLS was at, because what the MLS is now, it's just not what it used to be.
Yeah. Well,
even when Pele and George Best came over for a stint, they played in some.
They played Green Bay. They played for the Green Bay Packers, didn't he? I'm sure. It's just like he played in the Packers Stadium, which was one of the biggest ones in the world. But
Lambeau Field.
Unbelievable. There's a comment in the group chat about Freddy. Is it Freddy Adu?
Freddy Adu. That's what I was laughing at when you were.
What happened to Freddy Adu? Do you know what? Right when I remember. Because Freddie must be a similar age to me. He must be a similar age to me. That I remember when he was 15. I think he was 15 when he made his debut for Did he play for Wayne Rooney's team? Was that
DC United signed him when he was 14, and he was very quickly in the MLS All-Star game, which no one really thought. It was just all hype and promotion, and he's been just a journeyman since. Really, it's kind of sad. I think I have no idea. I don't know him obviously, but I'd imagine it was way too much, way too fast, way too much hype, way too many expectations, and I don't know. For me, it's just, I don't want to say a sad story because he's still making money, he's still playing at the professional level, but he's been playing in some tiers that you just never would have expected given what was being said about him.
But I think that is for a lot of clubs. Yeah. Listen to some of these clubs. So he signed with the MLS, played for DC United, Real Salt Lake. Then he signed for Benfica, then went on loan to Monaco, Belenise, Arisi, a team in Russia, and then he kind of goes down. But it's like Philadelphia. They had some trials, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Another
the Las Vegas Lights,
after that.
Which is like second tier here. Like he couldn't even crack the team.
See, I think that is a sad story, because I just think for someone who had so much ability and someone who had it all at one time, you know what I mean, for somebody to not just get hold of him and push him in the right direction, you know what I mean. I said about football saving a lot of people, you know what I mean, and I think it's let down some people as well. And I think, you know what I mean, I'm not laughing at what's happened to him. I just think that has he been educated? Has he been educated? Sorry, that should be 117. That's a shame for me, because the amount of games that the US play, you know what I mean, they have friendlies, they have the Gold Cup, they have World Cup qualifiers, and they have tons of them as well. They've been in a lot of World Cups in the last 2 decades, you know what I mean. They've had an unbelievable opportunity to get 50, 100 caps. You look at Tim Howard, how many caps he's got. You know what I mean, the Roy Wigleys of this world, you know what I mean, going back, dropping a name in Kobe Jones when he played in the Premier League at Coventry City. You know what I mean, I just think, you know what I mean, did he have the right people behind him? Did he have the right family pushing him? Did he have an agent who was pushing him in the right direction?
I think a lot of it was honestly just, and I could be wrong here, I'm not trying to be a conspiracy guy or anything, but I think a lot of it was just a marketing scheme to, like, because all these people in the chat know who Freddy Adu is and probably couldn't name a single other U.S. national team player back when Freddy Adu was playing. So it brought in a lot of hype for U.S. soccer. A lot of people were reading articles about U.S. soccer, tuning into games that otherwise never would have tuned in. And unfortunately, it's just, when you're 14, potential is potential. There's nothing guaranteed about potential. And I'd imagine being 14 years old and already being on a first side and already being tabbed the next greatest thing in the United States, there's no way that's the best environment to come up with. And unfortunately, not to go on a little bit of a tangent here, it doesn't really look like we learned from that, because then, I forget the year, we did almost a similar thing with Julian Green in the national team. Before the World Cup, we cut Landon Donovan for Julian Green, and I don't even know where Julian Green is anymore. So, and again, we created all that hype for someone, put unrealistic expectations on a 16-year-old, and just not a whole lot happened.
You speak about the national team then, Greg. How important is the national team for the MLS to be successful? You know what I mean? You spoke about players who are playing overseas. You know what I mean? Pulisic. You know what I mean? You've got other players who are playing in various countries. You've got players who could play for America. You've got Claudio Reyna's son who plays. I think he plays in Borussia Dortmund currently. You know what I mean? So there's players dotted around the world at very good football clubs, so getting very good coaching, very good training, playing at good levels, playing the Champions League. So the success should or could be automatic if it was all pushed in the right direction, right?
Yeah, and again, the MLS getting better is huge, but I don't think we need to rely on the MLS quite like we used to, because more and more teams abroad are giving American players chances, and more American players are starting to actually come through. I mean, Weston McKennie is one of my favorite players to watch right now. It's the United States, and I know he's playing in the Italian league right now, but I think he's going to be one of the next big things for U.S. soccer as well. And you mentioned Claudio Reyna's son, Gio Reyna. I mean, and also we have Sergio Dest over at Barcelona. There was a great picture on social media the other day of him and, Messi laughing. And I don't know when the last time is American players just got to hang out with potentially one of the greatest players of all time like that. So MLS is definitely important, but it's no longer the be-all, end-all for United States national team soccer.
And I think that's the important side, though, isn't it? You know what I mean? We speak about our national teams, obviously size really passionate about his country and the way that his country plays his football. Same as me. I love my country, but I don't really care that much about where my players play, as long as the best players are picked for the country, and as long as they achieve the ability and don't underachieve. We had Adrian Berrington on, who's from Team England, and for me, England have massively underachieved over the last few years. I think Wales have potentially overachieved a little bit, with some of the players they've had, and that's not being disrespectful to some of the players they've had. They've got some of the best players in the world on the day, but at the same time, they've got a lot of players from the Championship, so to speak. So for me, I think sometimes it's just getting the right blend, getting the right manager in place, getting the right coaching, having the right team spirit and camaraderie, and all of a sudden you can have a little bit of overnight success and having a Gold Cup, having World Cup qualifiers, getting the World Cup. And you've seen sometimes South Korea doing well in the World Cup, Wales have done well in the World Cup and the Euros, and sometimes Croatia, for example. Sometimes it's just about getting the right place at the right time, and people can take off. The Leicester City effect, so to speak.
Exactly. I think you need the right infrastructure with the youth teams and everything, but when it comes to who cares what your domestic jersey is, all I care is that you're given 100% and believe that we can do something when you put your national team jersey on. So yeah, I think it's an exciting time. I'm really hoping we have the manager right now. The last World Cup cycle, I'm sure everyone here knows what happened. It was a disaster. I don't have a better word for it. So I'm really hoping we're moving in the right direction right now. So
you mentioned Julian Green, Greg. He is now playing in the German, just checking out Bundesliga. I think it's the second tier of that. But he signed for Bayern Munich, and then he went on loan to Stuttgart, and he's now playing at Greuther Fürth, which I think is the second division team in Germany. But he's only 25, so he's clearly got something about him, ability-wise, to sign for clubs and play, and then loaned out to clubs of that stature. Obviously, he's dropped down a level slightly now, but you'd like to think that maybe he will go on and achieve what people seem to have been hoping he would go on to achieve. But yeah, like you said, with all footballers, I don't think it's an American thing necessarily. The British press and media do it a lot. Is young players get hyped up very, very quickly as soon as they do one good game, one good goal, bit of skill.
Well, the issue with him is he hadn't done anything yet. He was just a name that was with Bayern Munich, which is awesome, but he was with one of their lower teams. And what's really unfair to Julian, I think, is that he took the spot of Landon Donovan, and he's kind of Landon Donovan's really polarizing when it comes to discussing the U.S. national team. But his career, he'd been a winner with the U.S. national team, scored a ton of important goals. The one that got us against Algeria, that got us into the knockout round, and I want to say 2010. I'll never forget that moment. And to take that spot a couple days before they head off to the World Cup, that puts a lot of extra pressure on him, not only in that World Cup, but I mean, you can see how much I remember that decision. Mm-hmm. Fans everywhere remember that decision. And he hasn't been really a national team figure since. So again, I hope I root for everyone to be successful in their careers. I really hope he starts that upwards trajectory soon again, because like you said, there's definitely potential.
I think it's unfair though, so is it sometimes that Gregg's mentioned, obviously we talked about Freddy Adu, we just talked there about Green, that it happens more often with English players, and it just doesn't get mentioned because there's that many of them, you know what I mean, that somebody's just put in the group chat. Craig's just put in the group chat there about Ravel Morrison, you know what I mean, and the players who, and I'll call them journeymen a little bit, they've had that many clubs that nobody can ever get a song or a dance out of about these kind of players, you know what I mean. Ravel played for Middlesbrough last year, the year before he played for Middlesbrough. I was excited when he signed, because he has that something extra. And these kind of players who get you on the edge of the seat, but when are they going to learn that they're in such a privileged position that the football career is so short? By the time they know it's going to be done, it's going to be over. And you know what I mean, they're going to have so many regrets, and it's going to be such a shame for them personally, because they're going to have to live with those regrets, and they will eat them up inside, because you know what I mean, you've got to get the best out of what you had. I remember watching Ravel Morrison, and I've said it on this show 100 shows ago. I watched him at Man United when he was a young kid, and he was the best thing I've seen. He was far better than. He was on par with the Gascoignes. He was that good, and you know what I mean. That's not an understatement, by the way. He was amazing, but I don't even think Fergie could get a tune out of him. You know what I mean? And for the best manager in the world not to get something, and every other manager's followed suit, nobody's been able to get a tune out of him. And I'd love to sit down with him. I'd love him to come on the show and explain to me, what is it? What's the problem?
Yeah,
why
I'd love to know
can't?
why.
Yeah. What's the block?
Why he
What's that
hasn't been
mental?
able to-
Is it a mental block? Is it a physical block? Is it somebody else's fault? You know what I mean? Is he got a
Maybe he just
young
wants to do his own thing.
mentality? Well, unfortunately, it's Greg knows, you know, I know. Football is not an individual sport. You know what I mean? It's a team sport. You've got to buy into someone else's ideas. For you to be successful at a club, you've got to buy into a coach's philosophy, a team's philosophy, a club's mentality, other players. You know what I mean? Football's evolved so much. You know what I mean? It's not about one individual anymore. You know what I mean? The best teams in the world are those teams who probably don't have one good player. They have 7 or 8 good players who get a 9-10 out every week.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I'll use Norwich City. You know what I mean? Norwich City have been a pain in my backside this season because they've seemed to win every single game. They beat Cardiff City the weekend. I wouldn't look at their team on paper and say that any of their players are the best in the Championship, but they seem to win every single week, and I don't know why. But they've just got that winning mentality. They've got that team spirit. Everyone knows their jobs. Everyone knows what to do from minute 1 to minute 95, and that's the way it goes. And do you know what? The manager and the coach and the coaching staff and the players need to take huge credit for that and massive responsibility for how they act, because they were poor last year, but they've got something right this year, and they've learned from the mistakes, and it's fantastic. And you know what? I'd love my team to play in that manner week in, week out, because I'd be so proud of it.
Those are some of the funnest teams to watch, when you just have 11 guys that are, checked in and just working together instead of just relying on 1 or 2 guys to do it all. When you got 11 guys with the same mindset, the same hunger, the same belief, the sport becomes really enjoyable.
Yeah.
100%.
I'd like to speak, Si, about philosophies.
Can we wait 60 seconds, mate?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah,
remind me, because I'll forget that.
I will.
It's a good
We'll
word.
go
It's a good
straight
word.
to it now.
It's a good word.
We'll be back in 60 seconds.
My mummy and daddy have been talking about life insurance. It sounds like something to protect my brother and me, but I don't really understand. Then my Auntie Louise told Mummy about Bespoke Financial Teesside. She said they're a local company who helped her with her life insurance. Mummy got in touch, and because they're based locally, a man called Darren was able to come to our house. He was really friendly. Darren stayed for a cup of tea and made it all really easy to understand. He said that life insurance will protect our home and family if anything bad were to happen. Like if Mummy or Daddy got sick, then we'd get enough money to take care of us, and our house would be paid for so it wouldn't get taken away. After an hour, Darren said goodbye and Mummy and Daddy seemed a lot happier. Once it was all sorted, we could all relax and watch a film together as a family. I don't know why they didn't do it sooner.
Yeah, Bespoke Financial specialise in life insurance, critical illness, income protection, mortgages and sports cover. And as I mentioned earlier in the show, they're giving away a free will worth £140 with any new policy which is taken out. So check them out, give them a call, and don't miss out on this amazing offer. And as always, we thank them for sponsoring the show. Andy, what were you going to say? Philosophies.
Philosophies. Didn't forget.
Yeah.
I'd just like to speak about. Obviously, it's great to have a coach on. I mean, we've been lucky, haven't we? We've had some managers, some coaches on, some players who want to get into that kind of field. I've tried. I enjoyed it. Failed miserably. But I'd like to obviously dig deep into you, Greg, and just speak about how important a philosophy is to you. Do you religiously stick to a philosophy? Have you stick to it in previous jobs and what you do now? And will you continue to do that in the future?
I mean, team-wise, my biggest goal is to always try to get our guys to be the best version of themselves. That's on the field and off the field. I think if you're doing the right things in both those settings, usually good things will happen on the field. Personally, I just always, the thing I try to stand by is if you're at a place that doesn't have a rich history, hasn't been really successful, I just always try to tell myself it's because I haven't been there to do it yet. I try to take the approach that, if we do it my way, there's a way. Every team, every program, there's a way for it to be successful. We just got to find it. And so far here, this will be my second season at Northland. I think I've been here 18 months now. We've seen a lot of really good dramatic improvements, and when you see that, guys start buying in, and then it becomes that much easier to kind of get them to be the best version of themselves as well.
Well, I totally agree. Like, how important then is it to be flexible? You know what I mean? So to not be strict on a certain formation or a certain team selection, or because obviously if you are a little bit strict with it, then it obviously as its downfalls, right?
Yeah, I mean, as a coach, I think manager, you definitely need to be able to adapt. You have to adapt to the situations, your opponent. If an opponent plays a certain way, I don't believe in just 18 games of the year, whole year, saying we're going to play a 4-3-3 no matter what. I just don't think that's a recipe to be successful. You just got to be able to change things halftime, and your players also have to understand what those changes might be. And so when you approach like a preseason, for example, if you're setting everything up to be a 4-3-3, what do you do when you're 4 games in and you suddenly need to switch into a 3-5-2 to try to get a goal at the end? If your players have no idea what they're doing, you're setting them up for failure. So I think you really need to be flexible. And the other part, from a player to coach perspective, you also need to understand that players react differently in different ways to different things. You can't kind of have the same hat on with how you treat every single player. And I know there's coaches out there that will argue with me on this, but I think if your goal is to get the best or get the most out of every single individual, you have to know how to treat every single individual individually. And I think that's one of the joys of coaching, kind of building that relationship with your players, and also one of the challenges.
But I think that's
I love hearing that, mate, because what I've talked about loads is about how you've got to treat people. Everyone's different. Everyone reacts and responds to different things. Some people react better to a kick up the backside and a bit more of a firmer thing. Some people, they need to be like coaxed along a little bit each day. They need that reassurance. They need whatever it may be. They might need someone to talk to regularly. They might just be happy to get on with it and do it themselves and follow instructions. Everybody's different.
But then we're on about a group of boys who are away from family, you know what I mean? Thousands of miles away from home. You know what I mean? That we've got sat right here. We've got a father figure, a coach, a mentor, a manager, a friend. You know what I mean? And it's about getting the right thing for the right individual, right person. That somebody, Johnny over there, might need a kick up the backside, whereas Dave might need an arm around the shoulder, and someone else might need a little bit of fun. And it's regardless how you're feeling, if you're happy, if you're sad, if you're having a good day or a bad day, you're tired, you know what I mean? It's about you being that person at the right time, and it's so important that you're that person that they all need to be, because it's about knowing your people as well and knowing the individual, because it's there's no point just trying, and you know what I mean, you've got to know that person inside out, and you know what I mean, know what works for them, know what doesn't work for them, know what their strengths are, know what their weaknesses are, because you know what I mean, it's about working to make them better, and working better on weaknesses is better than just telling them that the great, because when they move to a bigger and better place, hopefully, you know what I mean, which is the goal and the dream, you also set them up to fail. That how come no one's worked on your heading, for example, because I just didn't do it. You know what I mean? It's about working on things which are for that person, and it's so rewarding. You know what I mean? I just see the passion in Gregg's voice and the way that he talks. It's just absolutely fantastic that these young people, I nearly call them kids again, that's really bad. That these young people,
I call them kids sometimes.
Yeah.
And they act like it too sometimes.
Yeah, well, so do I, but I'm 41, so everyone's allowed that. It's absolutely fantastic that they get this opportunity to work with someone who's got so much passion inside them that want to make them better, who's got the desire to make them better. And then you walk out on the football pitch side and look around and see the facilities, and how can you fail? How can you fail when you've got a good person in front of you? And you've got the weather sometimes, it was obviously nice. And then you've got the facilities around you as well. It must just be a dream, you know what I mean? Because everyone's got aspirations, everyone's got dreams to go to another level. But you know what I mean? There's a reason why people are doing this kind of thing, this kind of scholarship, because it's a qualification, because they're getting a qualification out of it, and then they're giving themselves a platform to hopefully, potentially, going to be a footballer, if that's staying in the States, to go hopefully in the USL, hopefully MSL, if that's to go MLS, if that's to go to overseas to play in whatever country. It's a fantastic platform for any young person to be in. You know what I mean? If you know what I mean, if that was available years ago for people. A lot more people would have bought into it. You know what I mean? And it would have given a lot more people who got released at clubs at 18 a better opportunity to get A, qualification, B, to a longevity of their football career and a better level and a higher level, and give them a better platform and a better life. I mean, I believe that. I believe a better life, because lifestyle is important.
Yeah.
Seeing the big wild world, and Greg will tell you know what I mean? It must just be so rewarding, mate. Must be.
It's a lot of fun, and I genuinely mean, like, the relationship part of coaching it's one of my favorite aspects. I mean, you mentioned it, we have kids thousands of miles away from home, and, you know, I've talked to kids who are, you know, feeling homesick. I've talked to kids about things way worse than that I won't get into on this, but it's kind of that, just building that relationship with your players and just being there for them. And it's definitely a unique job in terms of some of my job security relies on the decisions of 18, 19, and 20-year-olds, which sometimes is a little bit daunting. But if it's just fun to kind of get to know these guys and help them through the process and really kind of help them go from being a kid to an adult. And if there's anyone out there that's listening to this that's, you know, considering the college route in the U.S., one of the biggest things I would say is, aside from the dollar signs and facilities, really try to get to know the coach that you're talking to. Make sure that they're actually going to care about you as a person, because you're going to be over here 18, 19, 20. It's make sure that they're going to care about you, not just how many goals you're going to score, but also, you know, who you are and what your future is going to be.
Which is just how refreshing that, because I see a lot of people in the football system in the UK, just a number. The scholars, you know what I mean? Greg, we had an unbelievable time when I was at YTS. You know what I mean? Obviously, I know you spoke to Isaac's dad, Jamie. That when we were young kids, and you're going into football clubs, and you're doing jobs, you're scrubbing toilets, you're cleaning football boots, and you're doing more of the horrible stuff than you are playing football. And you know what? It was the happiest time of my football life. That I loved doing that. What I did, it made me into I wouldn't say a man, but it showed me where my roots were. It showed me that I was grounded. It kept me really focused on what I wanted to do, because I was able to watch people playing in the Premier League, and I was cleaning their boots thinking, I want to do that. You know what I mean? How do I impress people? Well, I impress them by cleaning boots. I impress them by going on the football pitch and showing that determination, how I can be as a rounded individual. It's not just about, like you say, how many goals you score. It's not about showing how many kick-ups you can do. It's about being that all-rounded person, individual, because you impress on and off the pitch, and people like that. People see the bigger picture, and it's not just about crossing that white line. You know what I mean? People, the emphasis on that for me is a little bit, it's not always correct. You know what I mean? There's a bigger picture involved in football, and you know what I mean, the longevity of it. You know what I mean? Because we've spoken about individuals today, haven't we, guys, that who were brilliant at 16. Supposed to be world beaters when they're 18, but then all of a sudden they're scraping around, and it's a shame. And I feel for these kind of guys, and I'd love it sometimes for someone just to get hold of them, who's got the passion and the desire to put them in the right place, and just give them a shake a little bit, and just say, listen, if you don't try, that's all you're going to end up. And I just think, you know what I mean, sometimes it's just having that right person around you at the right time, and it can go 1,000 miles, and it would make a massive difference. Character's so important, and I think we're starting to see a bigger and bigger emphasis on character at the college, youth, and professional ranks. I'll give you an example. Mario Balotelli. I have another guy, I really don't know where he is right now. And yeah, he had some success with Italy, but does anyone really think that he really became the best version of himself? There's no major teams that are like world known and world famous that want to sign that guy. And he had all the talent in the world at one point. So character matters. And if you can't tell, I'm not a big Balotelli fan. Yeah. I don't think many people are. Martin's put a good comment in the group chat there that I wish I could clean boots as good as you. I done all right in the game. I'll tell you what I used to do. I was quite lucky, you know what I mean. So when Juninho signed for Middlesbrough, I was on Juninho's boots and Gary Walsh. So Gary was a ex-Man United goalkeeper, and Gary Walsh's boots were size 13, I think, and Juninho only had a little size 5. So I cleaned Gary Walsh's brilliantly, and I just stick Juninho's inside Gary Walsh's boots just to hide them, so then I'd have time to do them on another day. So I always just hid a little bit. So I was just quite clever. It was always about thinking outside the box a little bit sometimes when you were a young boy. Always thinking.
Right, we've got a load of questions backed up, mate, so I'm going to fly through some of these for the people, throw some of these at Greg. Donna Perry asked, who's the most famous person to come out of Northland College?
Good question.
Hopefully 20 years from now, one of my current players, but we'll see. One thing we're really lucky is we have a couple of really good donors that have really been giving a lot back to the school. There's a gentleman named Craig Ponzio. Our stadium's named Ponzio Stadium. So just to give you an idea of kind of the donation levels from some of these guys, he's probably up there in the business world. So I'd say Craig Ponzio.
Okay.
Nice.
And
Sorry, on that note though, I'd love that stadium being named after me.
Well,
it's a spectacle in itself. So it's just
on the stadium. Martin asked, 10,000 seater stadium. Do they charge fans to watch?
I might have misspoke earlier. I said $10 million stadium. We
okay.
probably only seat probably like 1,000, maybe 1,200.
Okay.
We charged a little bit last year, but it's like $5. I'd like to get this program to the point where everyone in the regional area wants to come into our games, and we can charge a little bit more. But like I said, it's going to be a process, and kind of we'll see what the future holds for that.
Cool. Reese said, so is there a route to get into US coaching, or is it just through colleges?
No, there's all sorts of ways. The club setup. When I say club over here, that's really like youth setup, youth teams. There's plenty of full-time jobs, and there's just tons and tons of youth teams where you can carve out a pretty decent career. And, if you do well with the youth team setup, you can get a college job. I actually started coaching 18 and 19-year-olds, kids that were seniors in high school. And I actually originally was coaching a varsity high school team. So there's a lot of different pathways. There's a lot of different options. And I saw someone else asked, is it a decent career or is it more like a part-time thing? At the college level, it's almost exclusively full-time. Assistant coach positions can be full-time. They can be part-time. Sometimes they're really decently paid part-time gigs. But no, if you're coaching at the college level, you're usually making a decent amount of money. I mean, it varies, but it's definitely full-time, and I'm definitely well taken care of here.
Greg, what's the pathway like for even younger children? So I'm talking like maybe it's primary school. So is the coaching as good in there to get the fundamental skills ready? You know what I mean? Like we have it here. So we can have academies taking kids at young ages, probably 5 or so, haven't we, Si? You know what I mean? Which I don't agree with. I think it's really really too young. But what's the youngest age that coaching happens with children in the US?
Well, I'm looking around my office for something stronger than water before I answer this question, because this is something that really irritates me with how we do things over here. Listen, we do a lot of good things over here. At the college level, like I said, I think it's a great opportunity. And there's been a lot of improvements over the last 5, 10, 15 years of the sport. One of the challenges, though, for this country moving forward with soccer is in those younger age groups. Kids can be playing, I'll say, travel soccer, club soccer, youth soccer, whatever you want to call it, getting professional coaching as young as 6, 7, 8, 10 over here. The problem is the barriers. A lot of it depends on where you live and honestly how much money you make. There's teams that are charging $5,000 a year for kids to play for them when they're only 9 years old. And, that adds up over 8, 9 years. And there are way more teams charging this kind of money than you could possibly imagine. And
charging who? Who's getting charged that money? The individual?
The players and the parents.
What, per player?
Oh yeah.
That's the same as here, though.
Oh my. Well, basically, I don't know how much you know about the. So let's say if we local leagues, Greg. So here you'd pay about £20 a month, £25-30 a month probably on average. You know what I mean? So you got
to add a couple digits to that over here, and then you got it.
That's outrageous.
There's a lot of organizations out there that are trying to buck the trend. I mean, the reason I think that's kind of set up like this is our professional teams aren't set up like they are over in England. We don't have tons of academy teams where a lot of kids are getting, opportunities to play in front of those professional coaches. And so there's not many young teams that are getting funding from the top team and the owner, if that makes sense. So it's just a lot of teams on their own that train kids up until they're 18. And a lot of teams will try to bring in, sponsorships and pay for stuff that way. And there's a couple of great coaches I know out there. There's one in New Hampshire that's run by the Barbosa brothers, and they are finding sponsors to cover all their kids, and they've had a lot of success. But there's just so many teams out there that you really need to be a certain class, I hate saying this, to kind of get that top flight coaching.
I can totally understand your frustration, because listening to that has made my blood boil a little bit. That when I talked earlier on, say, about people being saved by football, that terminology, that way of thinking is gonna ruin a lot of lives, because you've got a child who hasn't got a lot of money with his family. They don't live in a good area. They don't, that mum and dad don't earn a lot of money or don't have jobs. That you're not allowed to play football because the football is. The good thing about football here, Greg, is football's not an upper class sport. You know what I mean? It's free. It's anyone can play it. You know what I mean? And that's the way that probably I like it. And I think it's portrayed to be here.
There's always going to be a team you can find, but in terms of getting that coach for your 14-year-old, that's paid a salary so he can just focus on coaching, so he can go get his licenses and be giving your kid the best coaching. That's when you really start having to pay a decent amount of money, and that's one of the challenges we're facing right now. And it actually worked out well for me, because I was able to, when I was 25, I just started my own club, and I looked at our neighbor club, who I'm actually in the Hall of Fame at right now. So it's kind of weird, but I just said, all right, these guys are charging $2,000, $3,000. I'm going to charge like 20% of that, and I'm going to steal their players and go win and, give these kids money to go do something else. And it worked out great for me. I was actually able to make a name for myself. The parents loved it. The players loved it. And I think we're starting to see more of that. More people really try to change things here, because like you said, there's so many athletes here that, like, when they're 10, 12, 14, they just have so much athletic potential, but they're not able to get the top coaching, and no one finds them. And that's because they're not able to pay for those expensive teams. Which is such a shame, isn't it? Because you've got players
how many players miss out.
Yeah, who slip through the net. That you've got players who are like sponges, aren't they, at a young age, that they learn so much at a really young age. The fundamentals, how to kick a ball properly, how to control a ball, how to head a ball, how to shoot properly, how to use different parts of the foot, different parts of the body to control it, getting fit, getting healthy. You know what I mean? The amount of players who probably get to a certain level who then do get coaching, find out that they're not good enough, or get told they're not good enough because they've missed the boat a little bit. And I just think it's that must be so frustrating.
It is. And I mean, even like, it's just changed. It's another thing that's changed dramatically. 10 years. There's been a lot of positive things changing in the last 10 years. The amount of money people are able to make off this youth coaching stuff, that's been one of the negative drawbacks of things getting better. And now I think it's there's so much publicity about it. And I mean, you can probably hear it in my voice how frustrating it is for me. Now more and more, even pro teams are getting involved and trying to kind of change the landscape a bit.
Well, that happens in this country as well, though. Where there's 2 or 3 excellent academies and development centres in and around where I live in Cardiff and on the outskirts of Cardiff. But for those 3 exceptional ones, there's probably 8 to 10 terrible ones who charge the same prices as the exceptional ones, but you don't get the same level of care, safety, coaching, anything like that. It's basically, for lack of a better term, cowboys making a quick buck, because they get paid very well.
Yeah.
Because the parents are paying for, whether it's hourly sessions for groups or teams or individual training, it's, they make it, and they're working all day coaching. But if you've got hours coaching and the coach spends the first half hour talking to you about whatever, you only get half an hour's coaching, but you still have to pay the full whack. Sorry,
my concern is,
for me,
if Jamie Vardy grew up in the United States, he would have been done playing soccer, football by the time he was 17. Because
that's a scary thought, isn't it?
Yeah. And listen, that is it's not good, is it? It's not good, especially when you look at the facilities, you look at the opportunities, you look at the players what have come through. You know what I mean? You look at the readiness is what is available there, and the scholarships and the opportunities what are there. You know what I mean? For me, it's if somebody got hold of it properly and somebody utilised the opportunity, it could be endless, and it could be absolutely massive for someone to go into schools and to give that something back and to use it as what it is, you know what I mean, and that's to educate young people in the right manner, give them a pathway to excellence and give them a pathway to something that they're good at. Because how do you know they're going to be good at something unless you really see them do it? If they can't afford to do it, you put off straight away because of money and because of the price of something. And it's what's more important at the minute, being able to eat or being able to pay to play football. It's a no-brainer.
I just think there's way too many decisions being made on players, before they're 12, 13, 14. And to me, those younger kids, like, they all should be having the same opportunity, because I know there's people, like, I've had professional coaches say, I can tell that 6-year-old's got something. And to me, like, you don't know if that 6-year-old is going to be playing the sport in 5 years. He might be doing something completely different. Yeah. So I think I think this is also a little bit of a global challenge. Kids everywhere got to be getting opportunities. And I think sometimes we just write people off too fast.
Yeah, you change so much, though, don't you? Like, from, even 6 to 8 or 8 to 12, or, different ages and a year is a long time as a kid. But it's also the same when you're a teenager. Your body changes, your interests change. Everything can change at the drop of a hat. And I just think too many times kids get written off as, or you're not good enough, or you're not going to be good enough, and I don't know. I find it a frustrating system.
It's because everyone's compared, Si, aren't they? You know what I mean? Everyone's compared to that Dave and Team A is compared to Johnny and Team A, and you can't do that. Every young player is going to develop at different stages of their life. You know what I mean? Somebody could develop at a young age at 8. Somebody could develop at 15. But if they're not given the opportunity to develop, doesn't mean they're going to fail. You know what I mean? Jamie Vardy. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Yeah. Everyone develops at a different age. You know what I mean? We're not all Wayne Rooney. You know what I mean? Listen. You know what I mean? He entered the world of men's football at a really young age, and not just entered it. You know what I mean? Smashed the door open. You know what I mean? On his performance. You know what I mean? I was lucky. I made my debut at a similar age than he did, but I was nowhere near developed like he was. He was developed into a man. He was a man with a young age, and that's what it is. But you know what I mean? He's had to manage his own development, as in his body weight, his physique. Throughout, you know what I mean? He's never had a physique where you think like a Cristiano Ronaldo. You know what I mean? He's always managed his own body and his own expectations, but because he was developed like that at a young age, it worked for him.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. Right, to finish us off then, we're going to try and get to as many of these questions as possible.
There's some good ones in there.
There's some phenomenal ones, but I just haven't been able to keep up with them all. Okay. Reese says, once a player finishes his college education, can he still play for you, or are you restricted to students only?
Strictly restricted to the people who are at the school. So you get 4 years of eligibility in NCAA. So usually I get guys for 4 years. I do focus on bringing in transfers as well, which is guys from other colleges that decide they didn't like it. But once you're in college, you usually almost always get 4 years to play.
Transfers? I didn't know that was possible. I like that.
Yeah, you can. There's guys that move between schools. I try to throw that word in there a lot because people over in Europe can identify with it. Doesn't quite mean what they think, but it's.
I like it.
I don't know.
I like it.
So Donna and Andy's dad both asked basically the same question, which was, what does the future hold for Gregg Gilmore, and what are your ambitions?
Good question.
I get this question a lot, actually. When I talk to recruits, or I'm trying to get to come to school and play for me, I actually had a kid that I've been recruiting for 3 years asked that the other day, and the biggest thing I'm looking for is I just want to be at a place where I think there's no ceiling, and by that I mean I don't. Every day at work, I'm not like, well, maybe we can finish third, maybe we can finish fourth. Here, I really feel like while it might take some time. I tell a lot of recruits, like, I want to win a championship within the next 2 years here, hopefully this year, hopefully this spring. I don't think there's really a limit on what we can do. And then after that, I want to go compete in the national tournament. We've got the facilities. I think we got the setup. We do offer a pretty strong education. So, yeah, there's higher levels that I could potentially try to coach at. But if I think I can be successful, I live on the largest lake and one of the largest lakes in the world. It's affordable to live out here. My fiance likes it out here. I'm not trying to be one of those coaches that just bounces from job to job to job. There's a lot of people that do that because there's plenty of colleges out there. There's plenty of different levels, but I mean when I say it that I like the relationship part of things, and I really want to try to build something.
That must be music to obviously the ears of the people that obviously who play under you, Greg, because I know obviously I spoke to one of your boys very, very closely. I'm very close to his dad, and you know what I mean. The message that I get quite regular is how enjoyable it is to play for you and under you and work under you and be close to you and the terminology of it, and proper British terminology of that's why that people want to run through a brick wall for you, and that's obviously young Isaac, and that's just, and do you know what? And that's used quite a lot here. I use it all the time. To be fair, maybe I've taught him. He doesn't want to listen to me, by the way. But I mean that must make you proud, though, to hear those kind of things and those kind of words mentioned towards you, because you know what I mean. It means you're doing something right.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. Like I'd love to be at a place, and maybe it's a lower professional team, maybe it's somewhere in Europe, I have no idea, where you have 5,000 fans and everyone knows your name when you're competing in the FA Cup or whatever. I don't get me wrong, I have dreams, but the way I approach it is if you do something special where you're at right now, then everything will fall into place. And I just see too many people that have spent 10, 15, 20 years of their lives bouncing from job to job to job. That's why coaching is one of the highest divorce rates out of all industries, because there's people that just think like, oh yeah, this person will follow me here, 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 here. And I told myself when I was younger, like, if I'm going to do this, I want to really try to enjoy where I'm at and just not take shortcuts. You do a disservice to the players if you're constantly thinking about the next thing for yourself. And like I said, we get a lot of good things here. I really like who I work for as well, and there's just no need for me to really think beyond here right now.
At the end of the day, if you're happy,
I think you're right as well.
You're right.
You're right.
Why would you move?
No.
It doesn't matter.
Exactly. If we reach a point where we're competing for a championship every single year, like you guys have seen the stadium, why would I want to leave that? Why would I be rushing to go start over somewhere else?
We move back to the old conversation about Kasper Schmeichel. If it's not broke, why fix it? It's obvious. That the grass isn't always green, and we say that on Hearsay all the time, don't we? About players who this silly season and transfer window, and the grass isn't always green. And people move for the reasons that they move. Agents want to move them to get more money. Players want to move because they think they're going to get more money or going to play somewhere else. It doesn't always secure happiness, and the decision about your football longevity doesn't always succeed, unfortunately.
Oh, yeah, agreed.
100%. Let's finish on this.
If
these two questions.
if that's to me, that's a no.
Do you fancy a crack at the Cardiff job, Greg? Yeah, please not.
I think I like where I'm at right now.
Yeah.
Listen, that's the biggest.
Fancy a stint in God's country. It is,
that's the highest pressure football job. Highest pressure football job in the world, Si.
No.
I've seen all the forums.
Come on, man. Just Neil Harris is rubbish. I'm interested in the answer to this question. Donna says, I wonder if cricket will ever take off in America. Now, I am genuinely interested in that. Do you even play cricket? No cricket?
Do I play cricket? Definitely not. I played it once at a work function a long time ago. And I would love to see a video of that, Greg, if you've got one. I'd love to pass that.
There is a US team, though, I think, isn't there? I'm sure there's a US cricket team.
News to me.
It's called baseball.
Exactly. I think cricket's probably forever doomed in the United States because of baseball. And don't get me wrong, I enjoyed when I played it. I think I was the youngest person there by like 15 years, which helped. But I don't think cricket has a future here, unfortunately. And I hope I'm not breaking anyone's heart when I say that.
You break it.
Donald will be gutted. Donald will be absolutely gutted.
United States cricket team. There you go. I knew I was right. They never question my knowledge. I tell you.
Are they good?
No. They're ranked.
Ranked what?
Well, let's just say they're just about ranked. But they have a team.
Who are the
professionally?
Who are the better
than? Should I see if they've ever won a game?
Canada?
Just to finish this off.
That would really cheer Greg.
Yeah, there you go. So they've only competed in one-day internationals and T20s. Their record is 15, won 6, lost 9 in one-day internationals, and in 2020s they've played 8, won 2, lost 5, and a no result as well. So there you go.
I'm shocked.
America.
I'm shocked.
They've played Australia and New Zealand. Wow. They lost both of those.
Did we play their U18 team?
They've played Scotland, United Arab Emirates, Oman, Nepal, Namibia, and Papua New Guinea. So not the cricketing titans of the world, in fairness.
I can't believe we have a national team, and we have a national ping pong team. So I guess I'm not totally shocked, but
table tennis is another sport that I'm absolutely phenomenal at. Just to say, not to blow my own trumpet or anything, but
if you're ever in the US, we'll have to meet up.
It's a big statement, that, by the way. It's a big statement, by the way.
No,
bear in mind these guys who have that much time, you know what I mean. I'm not saying Greg has that much time with his hands, but you know what I mean. I bet there's some phenomenal players in the with the young lads. Phenomenal.
I played all the time in college because I don't know how much people know about the college culture over here, but if you're not an athlete, your nightlife is pretty unrestricted. And obviously, when we had big games coming up, I was trying to find things to do where I could make sure I was the best version of myself on game day. And the ping pong table was where I made a living for the first 2 years of my college life.
Si's comment now is a little bit like he's just gone down. He's quiet now.
I didn't want to interrupt our guest. I'm not finished. Kelly's just put a comment. I went on football tour with my kids last year, or the year before, and I played table tennis against all the kids and the parents
videos
for like all day. Just beat them all.
Would you beat would you beat Forrest Gump? Because I seen him the other day. He was very good. He was amazing.
Yeah, I beat anyone, mate.
He was amazing.
Beat anyone.
Legend, Forrest Gump.
Had some lovely comments, Greg, about you as a guest about the show tonight. And is that right? That Kelly just said that Cardiff have lost out on both those signings, which were nearly done deals. Have you heard anything? I'm not up to date on the football news.
I am. I have heard on the grapevine that there's other teams who have hijacked one of them. I'm not sure about the other one, but
useless. I can't even start on that now because we'll never finish the show.
Friday's going to be fun, isn't it? Friday's going to be a right laugh.
Shaking, raging. I'm not happy. Oof. We'll save that for Monday.
Friday.
Greg, thank you. Friday. I'm raging. I got to try not to swear now as well. Yes. So, Greg, thank you for joining us, mate. Thank you for your time.
It's been amazing, Greg. Absolutely loved the show. Loved to dig deep into just your ideas, your stories, mate. They've been absolutely phenomenal, and hope everybody in the US stays safe. Hope everything works out for you and the guys, and please, what day is it today? Because it's nearly night. It's late evening or early evening, isn't it now? So late afternoon. Tomorrow, just beast Isaac for me and just say that's from me, just to give him a little kick up the backside, please.
I'll do the best I can. Thanks for having me on. Enjoyed all the questions, and again, thanks. This was a pleasure.
Cool.
Cheers, Greg.
I apologise to everyone or anyone. I know I missed a couple of questions.
Yeah,
it's just difficult to keep up with them, and we ran out of time, unfortunately. Must do better for next week for me. Massive thank you as ever to Black Diamond Sports, Bespoke Financial for sponsoring the show. We'll be back probably Wednesday with the MMA show straight after the UFC finishes. We're definitely back on Thursday with Super Kevin scripted, and we're definitely back on Friday with the championship show all live. So I hope you'll join us for a good laugh, talk football, talk mixed martial arts and such, all on Ace Podcast Nation. Subscribe, stay tuned, and thank you very much. Andy, as always, mate, it's a pleasure.
Yeah, loved it, mate. Really enjoyed it. Really enjoyed it. Another fabulous show. Just time just flies by when you're having fun. I just love what I'm doing.
Indeed.
And thanks to everybody for the comments and the questions, just everything about it. Just you're absolutely fantastic. So continue watching.
Indeed.
We've got some amazing guests coming up over the next couple of weeks as well. You know what I mean, to follow on for this one. It's just going to be brilliant. So keep watching.
Spot on.
My mummy and daddy have been talking about life insurance. It sounds like something to protect my brother and me, but I don't really understand. Then my Auntie Louise told Mummy about Bespoke Financial Teesside. She said they're a local company who helped her with her life insurance. Mummy got in touch, and because they're based locally, a man called Darren was able to come to our house. He was really friendly. Darren stayed for a cup of tea and made it all really easy to understand. He said that life insurance will protect our home and family if anything bad were to happen. Like if Mummy or Daddy got sick, then we'd get enough money to take care of us, and our house would be paid for so it wouldn't get taken away. After an hour, Darren said goodbye and Mummy and Daddy seemed a lot happier. Once it was all sorted, we could all relax and watch a film together as a family. I don't know why they didn't do it sooner.